Welcome back to AFTV, welcome back to the Tactical Insight Show, the first of 2024. I'm smiling, but only because I'm with my good friend Graham, not because Arsenal have given me any reason to smile. And listen, I know what everyone's going to say, okay? There's a long way to go. Look at the context, okay? Things can turn around, look how far we've come. We understand all that. I think we are very balanced in the way we look and react to this team and everything they're doing. Try to analyse what is happening. But I think people should expect this to be a pretty critical show, because while we love this team, can acknowledge how far they've come, they're getting a lot wrong right now, Graham. And I know it's only 2 games in a week. I know it's, in the grand scheme of things, just one bad week of football. But I think it's had a major impact, and I think there were worrying trends that have led to this week coming.
Yes, James. Happy New Year to everybody. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you.
Arsenal did their best to wreck Christmas and New Year, didn't they?
Well, they gave us a good Christmas with the Anfield result. So,
Arsenal ended the year, in my opinion, with a shocking performance and a shocking result, which I think is the first justifiable loss of the Premier League campaign this season. Mikel Arteta afterwards said there was a lack of ball speed, movement and threat in the team, which was the reason for the defeat. But I thought the performance was very passive, very disjointed and inefficient. And a lot of that, in my opinion, led to the fact that we struggled in build-up, transition and press. And I think a lot of that, James, is down to Mikel Arteta himself. The selections he made in that game, the difference in the team from the West Ham team that he selected. He wanted to freshen it up. The 2 key decisions he made in that game, Kivior and Nketiah, which we're going to talk about today, failed badly and I think affected the team on the day.
Couldn't agree more. And I think that is the big thing, is how much is this to do with Arteta? Don't get me wrong, the 11 players out there could all have done more in this game. And when I look at the West Ham game, I was looking a lot more at the players and saying, how are you not putting away the chances? How are you not taking advantage of the openings? Arteta could have done more in that game, and we spoke about it. We did a video on this channel talking about the different things Arteta could do. We're going to have a very similar discussion in this video, but we're going to build on it and really elaborate and make our point, because it clearly didn't sink in the first time. So we'll go again. But let's start, as we always do, with the match stats. We were outshot in a game in which we were chasing a goal pretty much from their equaliser. They had more shots on target, though we had more of the ball, did very little with it. That means more passes, and the XG, nothing in it, 1.41 to 1.85. Now we enter the final third, 67 times to 39. We had more deep touches, but not by many. Far more zone 14 touches, but again, so what? They attacked us out wide really well. And there was a field tilt 63.4% for Arsenal, something that a stat's being thrown around a lot recently, going, I don't care about field tilt. No, I get it, but it still kind of shows you that Arsenal had a lot of territory and possession, but did very little with it, and I think that's more concerning. It's about how you use these stats. Defensive stats, they did us for tackles, they did us for interceptions, they did us for clearances, and yeah, we engaged more quickly than they did, but they took the game to us. They weren't just a low block, they came to play. Now, you sent some other stats that I think are worth going through, so bear with me while I get through all these, but I think these are great, Graham. Well, great insight, not great to read.
Not great for Arsenal.
No. Arsenal only had 10 shots after Saka scored. Those shots were worth only 0.7 XG. After Fulham equalised, Arsenal had only 24 touches in the opposition box. Got more attacking numbers here, that we only completed 46 deep passes, or only attempted, 46 deep passes, with only 21 of them completed. We had 3 key passes across the whole game, and expected assists was 0.2, but this for me is the most damning of the lot. In terms of Arsenal's key creators and scorers and their passes into the box, Ødegaard with 2 in the box across the 90, you think that's bad? Saka and Martinelli didn't complete a single pass into the box. Where do you want to start with that?
I think...
Let's talk about the passes into the box. Yeah. That's poor. That is poor from all 3 of them, really.
I thought we had real problems progressing the ball into dangerous areas. And that's what I thought watching this game. I think Martinelli and Nketiah didn't combine for 1 pass at all in the game. Nketiah only passed once to Saka, Martinelli, Havertz and Ødegaard, so he was well and truly isolated in this game. I think we had real problems progressing the ball into dangerous areas in our build-up shape, and I think that had a lot to do with the changes he made in this game. So there were real problems, I thought, in the West Ham performance, we were very good between the boxes. He said it himself, but not very good in the two boxes, particularly in the penalty box when we were attacking. And there's an argument, that in the West Ham game, that was more of a game for Eddie Nketiah because we were getting the ball into the box than this game where we weren't getting the ball into the box, which was Eddie's strength. So you could almost argue that in the two games, Jesus was more suited to the Fulham game than Nketiah, and Nketiah was more suited to the West Ham game.
Yeah.
But that was the only part of it. I think the real problem came, in my opinion, from the way he set the team up in the 4-3-3 against Fulham 4-2-3-1.
Yeah.
And I thought he's taken a lot of criticism recently, Zinchenko, rightly so for his defending. But what he offers the team in inversion, in the way we build up, was solely missed on this day. And I think it affected the team in so many areas, and the reason why the performance became so disjointed and inefficient.
Well, let's talk about this 11, right? We've got it on screen. Now, you're going to break down your thoughts on the Kivior stuff. I just want to touch on one thing. There are three key changes from this game. There was, let's show them in red. So, Nketiah's come in, Havertz has returned after suspension, and Kivior's come in for the injured Zinchenko. None of those three players strike me as connectors, players that playmate, that combine, that interlink. Now, Havertz is quite neat and simple on the ball, so is Kivior. Eddie, we know, is waiting for the run into the box. He's waiting for the ball to fall at his feet. They try to do what Arteta asked them to do. They're not very good at it. Last season in these areas, away at Fulham, 3-0 up at half-time, it was Zinchenko, it was Xhaka, it was Trossard. Players that drop in, players that can get involved in all phases of build-up. A fullback that inverts, but can go around the outside as well, but we're not seeing enough of it, and I've been critical of that. Was that a fear for you at the start of the game when you looked at that 11 thinking, but of course it's going to look, at full time, think, well, of course it was going to look disjointed because look at some of the players we've got there, and of course someone like Martinelli's struggling.
When I saw the 11, obviously I didn't know that Kivior would play as the inverted fullback.
Yeah.
That's the first thing, right? So if you put the team in the shape, you move Odegaard up high and you move Havertz up high, and then you move Rice across and you move Kivior in.
Yeah,
that will be the typical build-up shape.
Yeah.
Now, if you're going to play that shape, you're asking Kivior to be something that he's not. You're putting him in the team in a position that is not his strength, in my opinion, to invert into a 2. And that is like the typical build-up shape, right? And that is how we build up play. Last year we had like ball progressors. We had like Xhaka in this role. I think we've also lost Thomas Partey, who is a very good ball progressor. So not only have we lost ball progressors, but we've lost somebody who could invert and help us in build-up. I don't think Kivior playing in this position, an inverted left full-back, worked at all. I'll tell you how it wasn't working at all, because I didn't think they were even giving him the ball at times. They recognised, I think, that that's not his strength. And I think that affected us in build-up. And I think it affected us in so many ways. It affected the way the team were able to not only build up, but be compact out of possession. When Zinchenko sits in there, it's almost like he helps the build-up shape, but also when we lose the ball, he's there to make us compact and win the ball back. So Kivior, to me, in this position, was the first failing, I think, in this team. And I'll tell you how much it was a failing, that I felt pretty quickly they abandoned that build-up shape and went back to Kivior playing at the back. And I thought it meant it became more of this. It became more of a 4-1-5.
Right.
So then you had Rice here, who was having to cover so much ground, and he was involved in the build-up. The problem with that is that when you're building up in a 4-1-5, it's so disjointed, James, that they recognise that straight away. So what you then had to compromise that was, I thought Martin Odegaard was coming back short to work with Declan Rice in the build-up phase. The problem with that is that when we then progress the ball high, eventually, Odegaard has then got to get up high to support the attack. And he wasn't able to do that in much the same way as he would possibly be able to do if he was up high and not having to come back to work with Rice to progress the play, because we had that Kivior situation. So we started in the 3-2-5 with Kivior at left back, that inverting, which didn't work. We then flipped to like a 4-1-5. that made us disjointed, and it was affecting us, obviously the press as well. I didn't think the press worked as well because of the way this shape was.
Yeah.
So I thought Arteta tactically got it wrong by asking Kivior to play a position that clearly he was uncomfortable in, and then when they changed the system slightly, that didn't work. What Fulham did really well, I felt, was that they
were good. We've got to
they
give them
were
credit.
good, to be honest.
They did well.
Ben White was coming up high because we wanted to get him up high to support Saka. So Arsenal changed the way they normally press in this game, which meant I thought that because Fulham were dropping Kearney deep alongside Paulinho in build-up, they were building up in a four at the back with Bassi and his centre-half colleague there, and Paulinho and Kearney dropping in, which gave them a 4v3 overload. And what they were then doing really well was they were playing inside Ben White through Robinson and Willian getting up high, or Kearney joining the attack and getting crosses into our box with the team disjointed. And there were warning signs long before they equalised. And I think the problem for Arsenal in this game, I thought, was the way Arteta set the team up. I thought it was the wrong way to set the team up.
I agree. You're so right, by the way, about, Willian was dropping into these 10 spaces so Robinson can overlap. We saw that with the equaliser.
Well, the goal came actually when Kearney got on the end of Robinson, and he was the one who got up high and put the cross.
Oh, did Kearney put
Kearney put the cross?
Oh, sorry, I thought it was Robinson.
Yeah, and then they flooded the box. Willian was, I think, got in there, and I think it was Raul Jimenez arriving at the back stick to actually tuck it away.
Yeah.
But they were really clever and smart. The way that they were able to break our press, use the gaps behind Ben White, to create that action. I thought, I talked to you today when I come up here, I thought the role of Ben White was something that I think he could have used differently, James.
What would you have done differently? Because obviously Zinchenko was out, so missing Kivior was it. Should we reset the 11s and we can talk about what we'd have done differently in this game? Because I don't know a natural solution to Zinchenko being out. I mean, maybe the solution is don't let Kieran Tierney go out on loan. What do you think?
Well, when Zinchenko was out at the start of the season, what did he do? He played Thomas Partey at right back. He was inverting from the right back position. I didn't think that was the right call to play Partey as a right back inverting because his strength was more in midfield. But he had the obvious solution here. He could have moved Ben White inside next to Declan Rice. Moved Saliba across, Gabriel across, and left Kivior. So the three, that would have been the 3-2-5 build-up shape. You would have had Saliba, Gabriel and Kivior. You would have played White next to Rice. White, who's got more the
skill. So you're saying White inverting. So if we bring Rice across.
He's got more the skill set, in my opinion, of a midfield player. Remember, he used to play midfield for Brighton.
Yeah.
He's a centre-back. He can play in midfield. He's more a sort of player who can invert and more of a passer of the ball, who understands that position more than Kivior, who's a centre-back, left-back. He's more a centre-back. So I think, had he done that sort of system with the three at the back, if he wanted to build up in a 3-2-5, I thought that would have put players in the position of the pitch where they were more comfortable. White could have come inside, and I thought Kivior could have then stayed back in a 3. I know you've got the problem in wide areas, but you've got Declan Rice who could come across and assist him there. I thought that was a solution that he could have gone with in that game instead of playing Kivior inverted at left full-back.
Okay, what about the changes he did make? So if I'm not mistaken, the subs were, so Kivior comes off, Martinelli comes off, and who else came? White came off, right? These were the first 3 changes. And if
the first change, James, was at half-time.
Yeah.
He recognised straight away that the Kivior wasn't working as an inverted fullback, so he brought on Tomiyasu.
Yeah.
And he played in the same sort of role as Kivior, and I didn't think he offered anything in that position either, to be fair. He's coming back from injury, of course. So the next 2 changes he makes on 67 minutes is he hooks Ben White and he hooks Martinelli.
Yeah. And then he brings on, Nelson's
He brings on Trossard.
And then Jesus.
And Jesus.
Oh yeah, Trossard comes on, of course.
Trossard comes on. And when
who
he came
did Trossard come on for?
Trossard came on for
Havertz.
No, Havertz came off later. Havertz came off for Nelson.
Did he?
Yeah, Havertz was
the last. Martinelli came off for
Nelson. Martinelli and White, I thought, were the first 2 changes, and he brought on Trossard and he brought on.
So let's make sense of this, because ultimately he ends up with chasing a goal with Jesus and Nketiah in the team.
Yeah.
Ødegaard, Rice. Let's just have Havertz there for a second. And then Tomiyasu ends up going to right of a back 3 to allow Saliba, Gabriel, and then so then eventually Havertz does come off.
Well, when Trossard came on first of all, and I thought he came on for Ben White, and then they flipped to this 3 at the back. I thought Trossard started off almost like a left wing back on this side. Then ultimately what he does, he takes off Havertz and brings on Nelson, And I thought it then became at the end more of a 3-4-3.
You're spot on. You're right.
You're right. It was a 3-5 because he wanted these two players.
That was the change. You're right.
He wanted to play Nketiah and Jesus close together in a 2. So originally it was like a 3-5-2, and then I thought you made the last change, but on Nelson for Havertz, you take Havertz off.
Yeah.
Then I thought it became more of a 3-4-3. That's what I thought at the end. So it was very disjointed, and it became. The problem with it is when you're changing it so much and you're changing it late in the game, Fulham are set in their shape. De Cordova-Reid, he was now dropping back into a 5. So when we had our 5 lanes, they matched us up 5 lanes defensively. So they were very solid. And look, I think you're asking players then to change a system late in the game, and I just think it become very muddled. And I just didn't think it worked at all. I mean, we just didn't get the ball into the box, and that's the reality of it. Me personally, if you want to know what I would have done, I would have taken off Eddie Nketiah. I would have gone to almost like a 3-3-1-3. I would have kept Havertz on the pitch and played him higher, and then I would have kept Martinelli on. Why he keeps taking Martinelli off? I get the fact, and we're going to talk about Gabriel Martinelli today. In my opinion, one of the reasons he's not functioning in this team is the way Arteta's asking the team to play. I think it's affecting him big time. He's also got the dysfunctional left-hand side in this game to work with Havertz, who's not a ball progressor, Kivor, who's not great in that position. So he really, I think, part of the reason why his performance was down is because who he's got to work with on that left-hand side. And I think the other thing that I want to explore with you today is, I watched Liverpool last night, and great dives, by the way, for the penalties, guys. But one thing you can say for them is that they do something we don't do, James. They get the ball forward, and they get the ball forward quickly. They got players who can ping the ball out wide to Salah on that side, or players who can come in, move people around, and play forward passes into the box. They're not afraid to give the ball away, are they? They try to hit dangerous areas, whereas we are playing this horseshoe shape of going up high on both sides, getting everybody up high, teams are getting set, and that's where I think the difference is from this season to last season, why the likes of Saka and Martinelli, you've got him off the pitch at the moment, why Saka and Martinelli are struggling in those wide areas because we're not giving them the tools to be what I know they can be, that we did last season.
And that's what I want to touch on. So, everyone keeps saying, Arsenal need a striker, Arsenal need a striker, Arsenal need a striker. Listen, I love Tony in this squad. I love Osimhen in this squad. Solanke's a decent player. I'm all for having a different option in this team. But I wanted to just take a couple minutes just to talk about how Arsenal can actually address this without spending 100 million. Those are the quoted figures for a Tony or an Osimhen. You don't need to spend 100 million to get us looking like a team that can score enough goals to win the title. Now, if you're talking about a striker being that difference when you're in amongst it with Liverpool and City, okay, cool. But we're not playing even like a title-chasing team right now on attack. We might be defending like one, but we're 13th, I think Jamie Carragher said, for goals from open play. Yeah. That's not good enough. So I want to give you some stats from last season and just remind everyone of how good this front three that we're being very critical of now were last season. We scored 88 goals. That scored the Invincibles, may I say. That was our goal tally. Our goal tally ranked second in the league behind Man City. We had a total XG of 71.9. That was fifth in the league. So, okay, not amazing, but certainly not terrible. Our non-penalty XG was 69.1, and that ranked third in the league. Good numbers there. Now, I want to give you goal contributions in the Premier League from our 5 highest goal scorers, and that was our famous front 5 of last season. Jesus with 11, Saka with 14, Martinelli 15, Odegaard got 15 as well, and even Granit Xhaka contributed with 7. You can see that's a total of 62 goals, 38 assists from that front 5. Very, very impressive output. Now, for some reason, in fact, while I do this, let me just get this 11 out here. Now, a lot of people liken the Martinelli, Jesus, Saka front 3 to the Liverpool front 3. Now, before Liverpool fans get upset, not because of quality. Mane, Salah, Firmino are a legendary front 3 that went to 3 Champions League finals, got to 90-point tallies, won the Premier League, won the Champions League. They were immense. But where they're comparable is in the way we played last season, the kind of goals we scored running in behind, the fact that Jesus played as a false 9 whose job was generally to bring players into play. Now, from Liverpool's top 5 goal scorers of their Premier League winning season in 2019-2020. Firmino got 9 goals, Salah and Mane got 19 and 18, which is better than Saka and Martinelli. But it's not miles better, it's not 25 goals each. Van Dijk and Trent were then the 4th and 5th highest scorers. You could have Henderson in there with 4, you could have Wijnaldum there with 4. They tend to be the starting central midfielders. So the 5 top goal scorers for Liverpool that season got 55 goals. Now, to remind you that our front 5 last season, or our top 5 highest scorers, got 62 last season. So in our top 5 scorers, we've outscored that Liverpool side's top 5 from that season. Liverpool actually scored 85 goals that title-winning season. We scored 88. Now, they didn't have, they had a plan B, to be fair, in Divock Origi, but they didn't have a 30-goal-a-season striker. They didn't have even Salah scoring 30 goals like he did in his first season, or getting to the 22s, 23s, 26s like he did before. Yes, Mane and Salah were world-class. Saka and Martinelli aren't. And I know I flirted with the idea that maybe Saka is. But they're not to that level. But they're brilliant players, and they've shown that they can get to a certain level. And I really want to focus on that point, because we have scored at a title-winning pace. That front 3 is the same, it's unchanged, and yet they look so far off what they did last season. Now, I'm going on because I've been talking very much about this as a front 5, not a front 3. Everyone's critical of our attack as a front 3, but it is as a 5. Ødegaard has been very hot and cold this season. I thought even when he has played really well, he's had some off moments. And Kai Havertz is part of that front 5 as Granit Xhaka was. So now I want to show you some of Kai Havertz's stats compared to Granit Xhaka last season. This is per 90, taken from FBref. Have a little look at this. All right, Havertz is up per 90 on XG, but he's down on expected assists. He's actually up on progressive carries, not by a lot, but he is up on it. But then have a look at some of the rest of these. Xhaka for progressive passes, miles ahead of Havertz. Passes received, miles ahead. He's actually slightly lower on progressive passes received, but he's way higher on passes completed, way higher on total passing distance, so he's progressing the ball a lot more. He's way higher, or not way higher, but he's higher on key passes. He's way higher on passes to the final third. He's higher on passes to the penalty area, way higher for shot creating actions, and double goal creating actions as well. Everything a midfielder is meant to do, which is facilitate, yes, get on the end of things, but facilitate as well. Kai Havertz is falling so short of so many of those numbers that Granit Xhaka put up last season. Now, I don't blame him massively, because his role is different. Xhaka would drop into spaces and combine, receive off Zinchenko, 1-2s with Martinelli so he can get in behind. This season, we seem to be playing a lot more with Kai Havertz on the final line. And we've talked about this. We've done a video on this about how Kai Havertz is almost like a bit of a secret striker. He's on the end of things. He's not as part of the build-up. But we have lost something in this area of the pitch. It feels so vacated whenever Martinelli gets the ball. So, there are 2 potential solutions here. Firstly, you address the number 8 position. You just get someone who's more suited. Now, what's the nearest we've got to Granit Xhaka? Vieira in his left foot, maybe. I think probably Declan Rice is probably the closest. So let's go to here. So you therefore have to bring in Jorginho. Where is he? Bear with me all 1 second. Here's Jorginho. That for me is probably the nearest you can get to replicating last season.
Or you could bring in Thomas Partey.
Well, when fit.
He's fit, isn't he?
Well, I don't know.
He's close to fitness.
He's not going to AFCON.
Yeah, but he's training, isn't he?
I don't know. That's what they're saying. I don't know. We will see. But,
okay, Jorginho or Partey.
But the point is, absolutely, you get a 6 and you get Rice to play that. But I want to throw something else out there. Now, it might sound drastic. It might sound crazy. But it's really not. Mikel Arteta can play with this 11 without compromising on his principles, but do something different on the pitch. Let me show you how this would look. First and foremost, I think you need to get a little bit of width from different areas. So what if Zinchenko held the width every now and again, and Ben White? And then maybe you do this, maybe a centre-back split. Saliba and Gabriel can split, and Jorginho can pick up the ball off those areas. He likes to operate in those central areas. Now, what's he been doing all season with Rice and Ødegaard? He's actually had them dropping deep to progress the ball anyway. So cool, have them do that. Have them drop a little bit deeper like they were, and then you get your biggest goal threats, Martinelli and Jesus, Martinelli and Saka closer to Jesus. Then you've got your overlapping options. Now, Zinchenko's got a good left foot, White's overlapped well last season, and what do you end up with? Because like I said, cool, he doesn't want to compromise massively on his principles. I hear that, Mikel. You know, you don't have to completely change everything you're doing, but you still end up with your 3, your 2, and you're 5. But the big difference here is you've just asked a completely different question of the opposition, because suddenly, who's picking up Saka in that area? Who's picking up Martinelli? Are you dragging a defender out of the way and making some room for Jesus? If Jesus drops in, is someone coming inside, the centre-back following, so that Saka can make that run? It is not difficult to make changes in-game so we can throw something different at the opposition. And when I was first thinking of this, I didn't maybe have evidence to hand, but I certainly do now. Well, I'm not thankful of Liverpool winning against Newcastle. They have given me some material. Have a little look at this. This is Liverpool's front three scoring their first goal against Newcastle. Szoboszlai's entering that area in the penalty area. He runs off to drag someone with him. But Diaz, Salah and Nunez, 2 things to spot. They're the width of the penalty area, so they're narrow. But crucially, the right winger Salah has come into the striking area. Nunez has come wide. They've mixed it up. Diaz comes inside, does well, drags the player out. Look, there's quality involved in this goal. There's no doubt about that. Across goal, Salah puts into the back of the net. Now, is that the only way Liverpool play? No, because they've evolved as well. Here's their other goal where Gakpo scores, I think it's the third. There's Salah on the touchline there. Really wide, where Saka picks up the ball a lot. But what happens when this ball comes wide to him, the fullbacks are having to come across quite slowly, but it's difficult to do because you don't know where he's going to pop up. So suddenly he gets the ball, narrow front 2 again, and Gakpo gets on the end of it. But the point is, in 2 different goals, you've seen Salah in the central striking area and you've seen him all the way out wide. And Newcastle struggling to live with it because Liverpool kept throwing different questions at them. Why can't we do that, Graham?
Because fundamentally, we don't do what Liverpool do. We don't pass the ball forward quickly, and we're never in a position, if you look at those 2 examples you showed, and I know you haven't recreated the whole pitch, but did you notice how, and I think I do remember this goal, that Newcastle didn't have protection in the half space. You know, you put players quickly in positions where they can use their skill set. They're not afraid to pin the ball forward quickly, which they do through Trent or through Van Dijk. They're not afraid to break lines, quick movement, and Arteta talked about we don't move the ball quickly enough, or the ball speed, the movement isn't good enough. But the reality is, to be able to put your players in positions where they can do that, you can't just do what Arsenal do at the moment. The system he had something last year, you could argue, that didn't need fixing. He had the system set up perfectly to play in transition, to use the speed of Saka and Martinelli in those wide areas. So what he's done this season, and we talked about it in previous shows, where he wants the control. He noticed at the back end of last season that we were getting exposed sometimes and teams were scoring goals. But it's okay to concede goals if you're going to put yourself in positions where you're going to score more goals than the opposition. And at the moment, we're just struggling, I think, to score the goals we did last season because we're not playing the same way, James, and we're not moving the ball quickly. How often has Saka been in the position Salah is this season, where he's literally had a ball pinged to him and he's one-on-one with his fullback? Because what we do is we move slowly through the thirds, we just get it out wide, and then we go in this sort of horseshoe shape of right to left and left back to right, and the teams get set in their low block or everybody behind the ball. Liverpool don't always allow teams to do that when they play against them. They certainly didn't at times in that game against Newcastle last night. Their XG was massive last night, something like nearly 7 point something. And that came because they were moving the ball quickly, they were putting it into dangerous areas, they weren't afraid to give the ball away. We almost just don't want to give the ball away. We just want safe options, safe passes, get everybody up high, and then we're looking for intricacy in the box, which you're never going to find when teams have got so many players behind the ball. We also had ball progressors last season like Xhaka, Zinchenko on that left-hand side, who were able to combine with Martinelli. Partey, who could, when I watched that Fulham game, I was crying out for a Thomas Partey. Someone who could pick the ball up and ping a 30-yard ball out to the winger quickly and get him one-on-one. And that's what he was doing a lot last season. So we don't do that anymore. He's changed the way we play, and that is in effect leading to us. Certain players, you talked about the outputs of Rice, Martinelli and Odegaard, in my opinion, have been affected by the way he's changed the style we play.
Completely agree. But you asked, how often do we see Saka in this area? But last season, I remember him on the edge of the D, slapping one in against Palace, I think it was, or Leeds, I can't remember. He has been in those central areas. I've seen Jesus pull out wide, so Martinelli. You're right, we don't play this way, but last season we were far closer. The balance was much better in terms of asking different questions of the opposition.
Yeah, as I say, I think we do miss those 2 ball progressors in our midfield. We've given up 2 ball progressors in our midfield for Havertz, who's very good off the ball, and as you say, he's like a second striker on the edge of a box. He's very good in small space at sort of like neat and tidy work.
His movement's good. It's about
he hasn't got like that killer pass in him. He hasn't got ball progression in him in the way that Xhaka had he? But he wanted somebody to sort of like come as a second striker into the box, so he lost that. But the other thing he's done is he's just changed the way we build up. We're not moving quickly. Last year we were a transition team. We've got wide players, Saka and Martinelli. Martinelli, no take-ons in the game against Fulham, a guy who thrives on take-ons. Why is that? Why is he suddenly half the player he was? It can only be for the system, I think, that Mikel's developed, because it's affecting him. We have developed this play this year where White inverts and then Saka will come off the line and White will thread it onto his favourite left foot as he moves from the wing into an inside forward position to get him close to goal that way. But often it's with Odegaard not there to offer an outlet or to go out on the outside, White not overlapping so much this year because he's carrying an injury at the moment. We've lost that, what we had on that right-hand side. We've also lost what we had on the left-hand side with the combination of Zinchenko, Xhaka and Martinelli, which was perfect last year. So I think a lot of the things that have changed this year, I think, have been to the detriment of how we build up and create chances. I
agree. Now, we do have the roundup stats, but I think you wanted to mention an idea that involved Havertz up front, or did we sort of tackle that earlier?
I talked about it yesterday about possibly Havertz could have gone up top yesterday. And actually, another thing I was thinking of, yesterday I would have brought on Smith Rowe. What is going on with Smith Rowe? Smith Rowe could have come on yesterday and played in the right-sided number 8 position. Maybe Odegaard could have gone over to the left. He didn't. That was, and then Havertz could have gone through the middle with Jesus behind Havertz. Now, we talked about the transfer window. Is he going to get a striker in? He said in his post-match, and I know it might have been a bit of stubbornness from him because they're always saying when Arsenal lose, who you're going to go out and buy, and he probably gets pissed off with questions like that, to be honest. Yeah. So he's going to obviously back these players. If he could get a decent striker in, which is what we need. You talked about what Man City and Liverpool have got. They've got 2 elite strikers. Haaland, Man City, Liverpool got Salah. They are elite strikers. We haven't got that. So we do need a forward who's going to bang in 25 goals if possible. But is he going to get that player? No, he's not. Certainly not in the January window, I don't think. I don't think Brentford are going to sell Tony. And that's pie in the sky, as far as I'm concerned. We're not going to get someone like Osimhen. So he's actually saying we've got to go with what we got and maybe address the striker position in the summer when you can do more. And you've got to remember, he's put himself in a very difficult position, James. He's renewed the contracts of Nketiah, Smith Rowe and Ramsdale, who he doesn't seem to trust anymore. So Nketiah's your striker on 100k a week. How are you going to offload him to Brentford, for example, for Tony, which I heard Robbie and Ty talking about this morning in the Bio Show? That's not going to happen. Smith Rowe, what his future is at Arsenal now, I do not know. But there is short term, I think, something that he could do. And I know people out there might disagree, but I'll throw it out there for a debate. Why doesn't he move Havertz up top into that centre forward position, which he played reasonably well against Man City in the Community Shield? If Rice can then move up into the left-sided 8, Odegaard can play right-sided 8, and then you can play Partey, if he's fit, or Jorginho in the 6. And that gives you, I think, more ability to hit a striker, to put crosses into the box, but also the ability to hit quicker balls. He's got to think about what's not working. It's not working because we're not moving the ball quick enough, James. And if we had someone in the team like Partey or Jorginho for control, maybe we could move it quicker and get Saka and Martinelli in positions where they can attack fullbacks quicker than what they're doing at the moment. That's my solution. Putting Havertz at the moment, I think, rotating with Jesus in the forward position.
Why not? We're offering ideas. Offer yours in the comment section below.
I'll probably get slaughtered for that, won't I?
No, I think people are open to that, but go for it.
Right, some really depressing closing stats this week, James. This was the first time Arsenal lost a Premier League game in which they scored the opening goal since New Year's Day 2022 against Man City when they lost at the Emirates 2-1. Do you know who scored the goal that day when we lost? Bukayo Saka, who scored again against Fulham. It ended the Gunners' run of 48 league games unbeaten when going ahead. That's 142 drawn 6. Arsenal now 13th in the Premier League for goals from open play, which you mentioned, and are currently 7 points worse off than the equivalent 20 games that we played last season. I think that's against equivalent opposition. Arsenal have now won just 2 of the 7 London derbies this season. The record is 1-2, drawn 3, lost 2. We used to have that great record in London derbies.
Crazy.
And finally, James, Arsenal have kept just 1 clean sheet in their last 7 Premier League games and have conceded 10 goals from the last 19 shots faced in the Premier League. So we're not conceding many shots, But when we are conceding shots, they're going in the net. That's the reality of it.
Lee Judge made a great point of Forever Arsenal. Everyone go watch it. He said, you can't, there haven't, since Luton, there haven't been any goals you can blame Raya for, but when is he going to
save a shot?
When is he going to have a moment that you go, wow,
yeah.
that was a big moment. You know, you went above and beyond there. But anyway.
Yeah, and finally, James, I just want to say a very happy New Year to all Gooners worldwide, including Luther and Courtney from Nottingham, who I met at the West Ham game, and a special shout out to Brian George from New York, who's a big fan of yours, James, and of the Tactical Insight show. So despite Arsenal messing up our Christmas and New Year, Happy New Year to everybody on AFTV.
Completely and utterly echo that. Get your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you did enjoy this video. We will be back. When will we be back? Maybe after Liverpool. We'll have to discuss that now. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet.
Just one quick question, James.
Yeah, go for it.
Would you rather we beat Liverpool in the FA Cup or in the league? If you had to take one win and one loss, what are you going for?
In the league.
We got Liverpool twice in the next month with Salah away.
Yeah, I'd
FA
rather
Cup third round and Premier League. If you could win one of those games,
the league, because that means we're 2 points behind them before another.
Do you still think we can win this league?
Yeah, I still think we can, but I no longer think we will. So my prediction has been we will win it. The trend has been far too, as we've discussed, for me to believe that we're suddenly going to click into gear because it's been 20 games and we haven't. But I still think we can, and I think Arsenal need to absolutely operate on that. Would it surprise me if we turn it around drastically in the next month or two? No, so let's see. Everyone, we'll catch you very soon, in a bit.